on the agenda, so.
I didn't think so.
Well, that's what I thought too. When I walked in, I seen it sitting there and
I better hit the restroom.
what you doing fun for your birthday?
Here I am. No, just I work, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, number.
Yeah, after 21, they don't really much mind you know
Exactly,
everything.
right. Just pretty chill.
All right.
Hey, Joe.
Lori.
Good, how are you? Busy weekend.
It's really good.
I was gonna say, it's a good busy. Looks nice. Yes. Thank you. I guess it was on the radio.
Oh, it was. I didn't know that. I heard from Joe.
Did you? Yeah. Thank you. Woo! Mark said, I said, I'm here now, aren't I? I know. I was gonna bring treats. Sorry, I let everybody down. I opted for enjoying yesterday's weather. I'm like, oh, no, I need to be outside for a while. So it was gorgeous.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Send in.
weather-wise, the temperature, now it's just hot.
It will be. Well, it has to be. It's Chelsea Freeman weekend. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To change their driveway, basically.
Good.
I would think the council has to approve it, but just kind of wave it on. I just went back through without having to discuss it. I've kept track. That's tonight. I'm just keeping track. I just wanted to decide. Yeah.
I put cupcakes on the counter because it's Lori's birthday.
Wow. Happy birthday.
Hey.
I was going to ask if you could embarrass you.
Yeah, we'll sing happy birthday after the Pledge of Allegiance.
Woo! Oh, boy. To receive my birthday.
Actually, what I said is you shame us all, but you're so good.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Time is 7 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting and call it to order. And the time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. So at this time, we'll have roll call.
Here.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I'll just have a couple things. Just like to mention John C. Fremont Days is this weekend, July 12th through 14th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We actually have the opening ceremonies on Thursday. I just really appreciate our board of directors at John C. Fremont Days, President Barry Reeker, all the volunteers, all the city staff, street department, to every Parks and Rec, to everybody that's involved with helping with a great festival this weekend. Hope you show your support and attend the events. I know it's a lot of fun, and it's a great family event, and just a great celebration of Fremont, all that Fremont has to offer. And so just encourage the public to participate in John C. Fremont Days. And as always, try to stay cool. So we'll go ahead and move on to item 1 on the agenda, and that's a motion to adopt the current agenda for the July 9th, 2024 regular meeting. Councilman Von Baron.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Move on to public hearings. Is item 2, ordinance 5681 for a change of zone from R rural to SR suburban residential for property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. We'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. I would ask that this and the annexation and the final plat and subdivision agreement be carried forward. The applicant has agreed to annex the entire donut hole in that area and also change that area to suburban residential zoning. However, we have to go back to Planning Commission because although it was advertised very broadly, the map that went out for notifications into the Planning Commission was for this specific area of the final plat. So this will go to Planning Commission on the 22nd, and then it'll come back here for further action. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and we need to continue it to the August 13th meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on this? I'll open the public hearing.
Maggie Deers, and I'm here to answer any questions if there are any on behalf of the applicant. Just me.
Okay, I would take a motion to continue the item and public hearing to the August 13th regular city council meeting. Councilman Vaughn.
I will make that motion. Can we do them all in one fell swoop or individual? Okay, so for item number 2, motion to continue.
Okay, Councilman Jensen.
I'll second that.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Then item 3 is ordinance 5682 for the annexation of property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. I'll now open the public hearing on this. Okay, I would take a motion then to continue the item in the public hearing to the August 13th, 2024 regular city council meeting. Councilman Horner.
I'll make the motion to continue ordinance 5682 to the August meeting as stated.
Councilman Vakens.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 4 is resolution 2024-158 approving the Brooks Hollow 3rd edition final plat consisting of 17 lots associated with the request for annexation and a change of zone for property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. I'll now open the public hearing. I would take a motion to continue the public hearing on this item to the August 13th regular city council meeting. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second the motion.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
And then item 5 is the resolution 2024-159 approving a subdivision agreement consisting of 17 lots associated with a request for annexation and a change of zone for property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. I'll now open the public hearing on this item. I would take a motion to continue the public hearing and this item until the August 13th regular city council meeting. Councilman Horner.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Jensen.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 6 is ordinance 5683 to annex property generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road and the BNSF Railroad associated with a request for the Hills Farm addition final plat.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is a request to annex the area that's associated with the final plat and the annexation agreement that follow on this agenda. The preliminary plat for this was approved by this body back in November, I believe. This annexation is for the 29 lot area plus 2 outlots that will be for the private roadway. The entire development, the East Lake is 156 lots, and the West Lake, if I get this right, 55 lots, if I'm recalling correctly. And those will be coming forward in the future. This is for the first reading. State statute does require 3 readings on an annexation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the City Council on this item? I'll now open the public hearing. Now close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen?
If there's no additional comments, I'd make the motion to adopt ordinance 5683 and hold the first reading.
Councilman Sukram?
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0. An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, annexing by voluntary petition property composed of a portion of tax lot 59 in the southwest quarter of section 25 and composed of a portion of tax lot 56 and a portion of tax lot 57 in the southeast quarter of section 26 and composed of a portion of tax lot 1 and a portion of tax lot 2 in the northeast quarter of section 35 and composed of a portion of tax lot 3 and a portion of tax lot 18 in the northwest quarter of section 36, all allocated in the township 17 north, range 8 east of the 6 p.m. Dodge County, Nebraska, and generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road and the BNSF, extending corporate limits to include said real estate, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date on first reading.
Move on to item number 7, resolution 2024-160, approving the final plat consisting of 29 residential lots and 2 outlots for property generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road and the BNSF Railroad associated with a request for the Hills Farm annexation.
This is the request for the final plat of 29 lots. They all range between 1/2 acre to almost 3/4 acre. It will be a lakefront development. It's consistent with the preliminary plat and associated with the annexation, which we just had the first reading on, and the forthcoming subdivision agreement. Staff recommends approval contingent upon approval of the subdivision agreement and subsequent annexation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Well, it's not as much a question as adding some clarifications and information, because we've kind of deviated from the way the city operated before with developers. And now the developers taking on a lot of the infrastructure responsibility. Would you mind just highlighting some of those?
Sure, and that really is outlined and specified in the next item, the subdivision agreement. And in that agreement, the developer is responsible to reimburse the city for electrical power extension for the area, and each lot is responsible for a connection fee. The developer pays for streetlights, water, natural gas, if required, sanitary and storm sewer, streets, sidewalks, street signage, traffic controls, stormwater management, stormwater detention, entrance signs, and within all of that, it includes the costs of fire hydrants and intersections, which in the past the city has paid for. And in the last 3 or 4 subdivisions that we have had, the developer has been paying for the intersections and the fire hydrants.
Well, I thank you very much. And I realized it was very specific in the information we have, but most people don't have an opportunity to read through the whole agreement. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? I'll now open the public hearing on the final plat. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any other additional comments from council? Again, the motion would be to approve. This would be conditional of the annexation approval and the subdivision agreement. Councilman Horner.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-160. Pardon me? With the condition.
Okay. Okay, Councilwoman Ganem.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Now moving on to 8, resolution 2024-161, approving the subdivision agreement consisting of 29 residential lots, 2 outlots for property generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road and the BNSF Railroad associated with the request for the Hills Farm annexation and final plat.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is the subdivision agreement. I believe that there are some changes.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Travis Jacob, City Attorney. I had sent over the suggested changes that I have, and I'd ask that the council receive a copy of those changes. There's only 3, and they're not very consequential. There's one on page 1, adding if any to section 1C, striking along Howard Street because that's not applicable to this development. On page 7, and adding contact information for developer on page 12. So I'd ask that the council receive those changes.
Okay, Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to receive.
Councilman Sukram.
Second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay. Okay. Are there any questions for staff on this item? Okay, I'll open the public hearing on this item. Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? Again, this would be a motion to amend the resolution with the changes that were addressed by our attorney. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, if there's no further comment, I'll make the motion to amend as suggested by council to resolution 2024-161.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, now the motion would be to approve resolution 2024-161 as amended, conditional of the approval of the annexation. Councilman Jensen.
I will make that motion.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to the consent agenda, all items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Councilman Sukram.
What's that?
Councilman Sukram, your light's on.
Yep, I will pull number 19, please.
Okay.
Discussion.
Councilman Von Baron,
Number 13, please.
and then Councilman Warner.
Number 20.
Any other items by council or staff? Are there any items from the public to be removed? Would take a motion to approve the consent agenda items 9 through 12, 14 through 18, and 21 through 23. Councilman Vaughn.
So moved.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 13 is Resolution 2024-163, awarding the bid for Jack Sutton Sidewalk Project. We'll have a staff report from Troy Shade.
Troy Shaden, acting city engineer. This is for the sidewalk on the north side of Jack Sutton between Luther and Johnson Road. It's about 1,800 feet of sidewalk. It's to construct 4-foot sidewalk, primarily for student safety walking to the middle school area. We went out for bids, and I believe it was JR Concrete, or JF, I'm sorry, JF Concrete was the apparent low bidder. I can answer any questions.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, Troy, I was just curious, what portion of this, I think the city is, we don't own the majority of that sidewalk. What's the city's portion of this? Just roughly ballpark.
The exact number, I don't know. I'd say the city has probably more land, though. It's shared between the adjacent property owner and the city. The city owns the portion. If you think on the west side where the sidewalk kind of turns, there's a big outlot there that's in the future is going to be intended for like stormwater detention. That's a fairly large area, so I'd say it's roughly 50-50, but I would bet that the city's portion is probably.
So it's just proportional to ownership.
It's proportional to frontage is what it's proportional.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Councilman Vaughn.
I'll just make a general comment for anybody who's helped who got this rolling, because it's long overdue, so thank you.
Okay. Anybody here to speak on this item? Additional comments from council? If there are none, I'd take a motion to award the bid for Jack Sutton Sidewalk Project. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 19 is Resolution 2024-169, approving the final acceptance of the Lincoln Avenue Asphalt Overlay Project by authorizing the mayor to sign the final pay application number 6. Go ahead.
You'll remember last year, Lincoln was overlaid from about First Street to 22nd Street. That project was not closed out because there was some additional work that had to be done on water valves. They were unable to get some material. They made a temporary solution, came back in April or May, I believe it was, and finished that up. So that's done. Really, the pay estimate is only it was only about $900 worth of work, but we did retain about 3% of the contract, which is about $30,000. So if the final pay estimate is for about $31,000.
Councilman Sukram.
Yeah, Troy, I received a couple calls and actually drove it before I came here. The manholes going northbound are pretty rough. Is there going to be anything in there to correct those?
So we have, our staff does a field inspection before authorizing this. They signed off on the manholes in March. So as of March, the manholes, we did have cover issues. They were fixed in March. I was aware that you had a question to Jody, so we went out and we checked it again today. The field staff checked it and didn't have any issues with the manholes. So as far as this, we were confident that it's right. If there's something going on now that we have to fix, Maybe you can give me that information, but it was signed off on in March by our field guys, and they went back even today at 5 o'clock and drove it and didn't have any issues with it.
They were okay with it then?
They were okay with it then and now.
It just seems to me that they've sunken down a little bit. I'm no engineer by any means, but it just seemed to me that they were down quite a bit. You hit them pretty good if you run them over.
We can certainly send somebody out, look at them again and adjust them if needed. They were done, I'll say they were done in March. If anything after that has happened after we signed off.
Do you think all the rain,
probably are.
you think all the rain could have settled something, or?
Rain usually won't do that, but
Well, maybe if we could just check it.
we'll certainly check them all again, and I'll drive by there on my way.
Mainly through Military to 16th is where I noticed the worst.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff on this? Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, additional comments from council? I would take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move that we approve the final accept the Lincoln Avenue asphalt overlay project by authorizing the mayor to sign final amendment number 6, resolution 2024-169.
Councilman Vaughn. All right, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
Item 20 is resolution 2024-170, authorizing the execution of a participation form to participate in the new opioid settlement with settling defendant Kroger.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Angie Olson, Executive Assistant. This item is an opioid settlement participation agreement. We have participated in these in the past, and Nebraska as a state is participating, which gives us as a city the option of participating in this settlement agreement. And we've done a few of these in the past. This is the third. There's five, I believe 5 altogether. They've been coming in kind of bundles. So this is the third one with Kroger, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Councilman Ganem. Yeah. Councilman Jensen.
Just refresh my memory. I believe in the past, we've used those funds to supply Narcan. Is that correct for the fire department?
Yes, that's right. The fire department uses the funds to pay for Narcan, and Narcan is in so I'm not a paramedic, but it is used to, if someone were on an opioid when the fire crews show up, they would be administered Narcan to offset that.
Councilman Warner.
That was my question on this.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'm just curious as to Kroger's involvement. I don't know the background on the case, Andrew. Do you have just globally how Kroger was involved?
I don't know. I know some of the other settlements were Walgreens, Walmart, Johnson & Johnson generally, but yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I'll take a motion. Councilman Horner.
I'd make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-170.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We will move on to new business is item 24, to receive an update on community development block grant agreement 23 DTR 007 for downtown facade improvements. Staff report again from Angie Olson.
Good evening again, Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. I just wanted to take this opportunity to update council and the public on the Downtown Facade Improvements Program, which is funded through Community Development Block Grant Funds, or CDBG funds. It's administered by the city in partnership with the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District, or NENED. So far we have formed an ad hoc committee. It's the Downtown Design Review Committee, and they will be reviewing applications as they come in, and then they will make recommendations to City Council. So City Council will have final approval of the applications. And we have an interest session for the program. It actually was scheduled to take place tomorrow. Most of you probably might have seen my email that we actually had to move that. NENED was going to do a mailer to downtown businesses and business property owners. And because of the holiday and a little mailing snafu, that did not happen. And we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to attend the session. So we've opted to move that to next week. So it will take place next Thursday, July 18th at 1 p.m. right here in council chambers. And we have a few professionals from different organizations like History Nebraska who will attend to discuss some of the historical requirements of the grant program, as well as a few participants with UNO who will talk about SAM's registration, which is the System for Award Management, a federal system, and a requirement of the program as well. And I'm here to answer any questions.
The total amount of the grant was what, 435,000?
435,000, 25,000 will go towards administration, and then 10,000 for construction. So $400,000 to allocate out is a 25% match for business and property owners.
And that will be up to 50,000.
Correct. Yep.
Councilman Sukram?
Yeah, is this like the second round of the block grant for this facade? I remember one forever ago, 2012 or 13. Is this the second round?
So in 2000, I think 14 is the last one that was done. But yeah, this is a whole new grant.
Whole new grant?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? There's no action on this. This is just an update,
Yep, just
correct,
an
on
update.
this? Is there anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, if there's no other comments from the council, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Item 25 is ordinance 5684, which is adopting the changes in state statute affecting retirement benefits for firefighting personnel.
Good evening, Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. As a staff report explains, there were recent changes to state statute that changed retirement contributions for firefighters. So after reviewing that, we worked with the city attorney's office and have brought forward some proposals that would revise the statute to put it. Probably the biggest change is that it will increase the amounts that firefighters contribute and that the city contributes to their retirement plans over the next few years. It's kind of a progressive increase. I'm happy to take any questions about this if you have any.
Questions? Councilman Jensen.
Just to make it clear, this is, we have to do this to align ourselves with state statutes.
You are correct.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council? This would be for first reading. Councilman Sukram?
If there's no comments, I'll make the motion to hold the first reading of ordinance 5684.
Councilman Bond?
I will second it.
Cast your votes.
Councilmember Jensen, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Jensen, it didn't. Thank you.
Sorry, push the wrong button.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have first reading, yep. You want to do the vote again? Please vote again.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have first reading.
An ordinance in the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for firefighters as prescribed, to adopt a retirement committee, to create funds, to authorize a levy, to exclude certain contributions from budget limitation provisions, to provide an operative date, to repeal all ordinances and resolutions or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication and effective date of this ordinance on first reading.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 26, which is ordinance 5685, adopting the changes to affecting retirement benefits for police personnel.
So for fun, while we were going through the firefighter ordinance, we went through the police officer retirement ordinance as well, and found some things that we thought should be changed again to remain in accordance with state statute. So those are those changes. This does not change contributions. This just changes language. So to ensure that we are following state statute. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions on this ordinance? Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion to introduce and hold first reading. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion to hold first reading of ordinance 5685.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second it.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 27. Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for police officers as prescribed, to appoint a retirement committee, to create funds, to authorize a levy, to exclude certain contributions from budget limitations provisions, to provide an operative date, to repeal ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication in pamphlet form and effective date of this ordinance. First reading.
Thank you, Tyler. Go ahead and move on to item 27, which is resolution 2024-173, authorizing the use of general fund reserves to complete the library expansion project funding of staff report from Jen Knapp.
Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Knapp, Finance Director. This resolution is to finalize the gives and takes on the fundraising and on the city spend for the library expansion. The project is finished. We do have 2 grants that we can take advantage of when all of the fundraising between the city and the tremendous amount of contributions from the community, as well as the bond that was authorized, is complete. So when we look at this, we would like to authorize an additional $420,798. That would take the city's portion of funding the library expansion to 49%, with the other half of the fundraising being the bond, as well as the private donations, trusts, etc. Coming in late to this, it was really neat to just see exactly what this community put into the library, and going over to see myself what the library looks like now versus what it was like when I was a child, spending so many Saturdays there. It's neat to see. So I'm recommending that we bridge this gap and finish the fundraising from our general fund reserves, and that will enable us to take advantage of the last 2 grants that have been pledged and finish this out. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Questions for Finance Director? Councilman Von Baer.
Yeah, Jen, I was there's been a lot of back and forth on this, so just trying to get my own head straight. So the final cost was somewhere in the area of $1 million.
Final cost of the entire expansion?
The entire expansion.
Was $9,745,400. $9,745,423.
Probably meaning 900,000.
No.
Nine, excuse me, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Just trying to, so there was a $3 million shortfall, so this makes that whole.
The 420,000 is now what we would like to bridge.
Okay.
And then the pledged grants, we will be able to trigger those two and we will be done.
Can you tell us the amount of those grants, those two grants? I just didn't see it noted.
Is there a restriction there? Yeah. They're both six-figure grants, but they want to remain private on the total.
But I assume they'll be made public at some point. My only point is I'm just curious whether we're guaranteeing $400,000 to get $200,000 or $999,000, just so.
Yeah. The grant, people who provide grants to the city can do so on conditioned upon remaining anonymous. That's actually one of the exceptions under the public records law. It's a way for cities to receive grants. So I think if we wanted to discuss that issue, we'd have to go into executive session.
Okay, I just assumed that the amount would appear at some point. Okay, thank you. And then just these, so these funds, the 400,000 it's not coming out of general, it's not coming out of library, there is no designated fund, it's just coming from the broad category of reserves.
It would come from the general fund reserves.
General reserves.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll just say, I just want to thank our library staff and those that were involved with all the fundraising. These two grants are considerable investments in dollars into the library that were made really, really early in the process too. That really helped us again move forward with the majority of the fundraising. So, you know, it was a huge amount of effort for these two specifically to receive these. So we're very, very grateful of that investment. So, Councilman Horner.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just trying to do some math in my head, Jennifer, and so if I could back up on what you'd said earlier, you had mentioned the shortfall that we're trying to cover. Did you mention that total dollar amount on where our shortfall is earlier?
The shortfall is 420,000.
Okay.
And of so 9.7 million total for the project.
Right.
420,000 and change, specifically 420,798 is what we're asking for to additionally contribute from the general fund.
Right.
And that will take the city's contribution to 49% of that 9.7 million. The rest has all been donations and the bond.
And the shortfall is to trigger the coverage from those two grants.
Yes, and I misspoke. The 2 million bond was part of the 49%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So 4.8-ish is contributions.
Councilman Jensen.
Maybe Jody can correct me. All right, so those of us who've been around here since they broke ground over there, I think, as I recall, when this all first started, we expected there to be to have to dip into reserves to the amount of 1.1 million to 1.2 million to get into those reserves. So to be able to get this done for 400,000 really shows how good a job they did with the fundraising and everything. And like you said, the grants are going to be the last dollars in, so we've got to put these in to get those grants.
I do want to point out, Mark, that it is the 1.5 million that you referenced when we were talking through the budget. That is after we need another 420 after the 1.5 that we budgeted for. So I didn't want you to think we budgeted for 1.5 and only spent 400,000, right?
Okay. Councilwoman Ganem.
No, just one comment. Our city is very fortunate to have a very nice library, and it's because of the community members, and it's because of the board that serves on it, and the fundraisers. They worked very hard to raise those funds. And aren't we lucky? We got a library at half price for the city.
Anybody here to speak on this item? Additional comments from council on this? Councilman Vaughn?
I would just like to extend my thanks to these foundations and those who helped facilitate this happening. It's another indication of the support we have in the community from our area businesses, and it's a great thing. And if there is no other comments, I'd make a motion to approve.
Councilman Sukram?
Second that.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Ordinance 5680, repealing and replacing the natural gas rate ordinance. I have Jeff Shanahan.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. We've been going through all the rates. Natural gas is the one that's completed now that's in front of you. I've sent it out in the packet. What we're proposing is the rate study looked at the shortfall that we're going to have in natural gas, and they proposed a 5% overall increase over the next 5 years. We looked at that and thought, well, let's go ahead and just do 2 years at a time now and see where we're at. So what we're doing is we're proposing the first year an overall 2.8% increase in the first year, and then a 0.5% increase in the second year. We'll then look at where we're at in the budget, and we'll come back to you if necessary for further adjustments in the rates. The way the rates were looked at and determined, we have a residential class, we have a commercial class, we have a large volume customer firm, and a large volume customer interruptible. When we evaluated all the different classes, we determined that the residential customers would be staying where they're at today. The commercial customers would see an increase in their customer charge of about $6 and some cents for the first year. And then the large volume customers will see an increase in their customer charge. We will also be adding a 10-cent or 1 cent, depending on if it's MCF or CCF, adder to their index price natural gas. Those customers don't pay based on first of the month. They pay on a DMARC price, so an index price. Typically, when we go out and buy gas nowadays, we pay DMARC plus something. We're just putting that plus now onto the industrial customers. So they'll see that. And then there's an increase of about 3 cents per CCF of their gas consumption volume charge. And that gets them more in line so that everybody is paying fairly close to their share of the cost for us to operate the system. In addition to those rate changes, we also added a section for a large volume customer to come in and use our network, but buy their own gas and their own transportation. We've had questions on that from other customers that have gas supplies. If they're a huge company and they buy gas throughout the nation for all their businesses, they've asked about that. So we put in a provision for that based on a contract. I know it's kind of complicated, but I'd be willing to take any questions if you have any.
Councilman Von Baron.
Oh, Jeff, I just appreciate the amount of thought you've put into this. This is it's one of those things where it'd be easy to just do a blanket across the board for easy math. And you've put some thought into parsing this out. And that's appreciated.
Thank you.
Councilman Vaughn.
I would just echo some of those same sentiments, because with the sewer rate increases that are going to hit households and this not, that's a good thing, I think.
Councilman Jensen.
I would just ask, is there any reason to or not to suspend the rules and move this to third reading and be done with it tonight?
That's up to council.
Any other questions? Anybody here to speak on this item? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen.
There's no additional comments. I'll make the motion to approve resolution 5680.
Ordinance. Yep.
Ordinance. Take part in ordinance.
Okay. Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
First reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, establishing rate schedules for natural gas system, repealing ordinance number 5655, and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing when the rate schedules are effective and providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect on first reading.
Councilman Jensen.
Well, I'll make the motion to suspend the rules and move ordinance 5650 into its third and final reading, please.
Councilman Warner.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Final reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, establishing rate schedules for natural gas system, repealing ordinance number 5655, and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing when the rate schedules are effective and providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect on final reading.
Cast your final vote. Ordinance 5680.
Ordinance is approved 8-0, Mayor.
Item 29 is ordinance 5686 for sale of property block 2 lot 8 of Christensen Business Park to Nebraska Arms Aviation LLC. There is a request to suspend the rules and move to final reading. Staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Jody Sanders, City Administrator. We have the Nebraska Arms Aviation LLC is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business with operations in Fremont, and we're very excited. They'd like to stay in Fremont, but they need to relocate, and they're interested in constructing a new facility that's closer to the Fremont Airport because the basis of their with a name like aviation, is working on helicopters. And so the Christensen Business Park, for those of you maybe not familiar with that, the address says that it's West 23rd Street, which really threw me for a loop too. It's the old 23rd Street that went straight to the west, not after it's been meandered around the airport. So it's the corner of West 23rd Street and Rademacher Way. And that location and that is ideal for them, but it's been vacant for, I believe, at least 15 years. So it's shovel-ready property, and they are very anxious to move forward with this. So that's the request to suspend the rules and place on final reading. There is still that remonstrance period where there's another 30 days that comes through, and if anybody protests it, there has to be a certain number of individuals protesting it. That could stop if there are concerns with it. So just kind of bear that in mind with the request to place it on third and final reading, because they are a little bit under a time crunch. Tracy Ogle of the organization is here if you had any questions for the purchaser.
Thank you for that report. Are there any comments for Ms. Sanders?
I apologize. I forgot one other thing with the on the purchase agreement. I'd ask you to consider making an adjustment to section 3, item A, where it talks about the earnest money. The earnest money is $22,057.40, and the copy in your packet said that it would be to a mutually agreed upon escrow company, and we've designated Dodge County Title and Escrow as that company. So on the purchase agreement that would be signed pending your approval would take out
that phrase and include Dodge County title and escrow.
Okay, any questions for staff on this? Anybody here to speak on this item?
Mayor, council members, Tracy Ogle for Nebraska Arms Aviation. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. We've been in Fremont for the last 5 years, operating north of town. Our business is growing greatly, and we'd like to stay in Fremont. And we'd like to move over to this parcel of property if possible.
Councilman Von Buren.
Just interested in capsule quick overview of your business.
Sir, we're a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility and we primarily focus on Black Hawk helicopters. We do this VVIP modifications for heads of state around the world. We also take retired best helicopters that come out of the Army and convert them into firefighters and send them out to out west to fight forest fires. We do a little bit of work for local Nebraska companies as far as aerial spraying, but we primarily focus on Blackhawks and what their capabilities. We own 3 patents and some other things, and y'all are more than welcome to come out and see us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Councilwoman Leahy?
Not necessarily a question, but I did want to thank you for staying in Fremont and continuing your business here.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for being here.
Sure.
Anybody else here to speak on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? So the motion would be to first amend to include Dodge County title in the purchase agreement. That would be the first motion to amend. You got a question? Okay, Councilman Horner, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Councilman Horner?
Since there are no other questions, I don't think I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 5686 as amended.
So first we need to amend it to include that in the
Then I would
purchase
make a
agreement.
motion that we amend it.
Okay.
To include any title and escrow.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gannon.
Spent.
Okay. Cast your votes to amend.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor, to amend.
I would now take a motion to approve ordinance 5686 as amended and hold first reading. Councilman Horner.
Now I will make the motion to approve ordinance 5686 as amended and hold first reading.
Councilwoman Gannon.
Spent.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Have first reading.
An ordinance providing for the sale of certain real estate and the same being described in section 1 of this ordinance, directing the conveyance of such real estate and the manner and terms thereof, and designating an effective date on first reading.
Councilman Jensen.
We'll now make a motion to suspend the rules and move ordinance 5686 to third and final reading as amended.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Cast your votes to have final reading.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor. An ordinance providing for the sale of certain real estate and the same being described in section 1 of this ordinance, directing the conveyance of such real estate and the manner and terms thereof, and designating an effective date on final reading.
Cast your final vote.
Ordinance is approved 8-0, Mayor.
Right, and now item 30 is a Oh, we did.
Oh, we did.
We'll move on now to item 30, which is a motion authorizing the event agreement and special designated license, local recommendation for an outdoor event at Main Street between 3rd Street and 4th Street by Renita Enterprises doing business as Helderia Renteria.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the first event that we'll have that's gone through the process of our new special event guide, so that's exciting. This event would be on the 17th of August from 11, well, it wants to start at, at 7 p.m. for close down. Then they would kind of start the event at 9. They are requesting that the event be allowed to continue until 1 a.m. I did inform the applicant that that's something that the city council would potentially have issue with, and that, you know, the new event guide does say 11 o'clock. And so the city council would have to take action if they were wanting the event to be allowed to last that long. There was also some discussion regarding the proposed event location, with the event being on Main Street. We asked the applicant to consider having the event in the Ilgen Fritz parking lot. The concern being that it would potentially be disruptive to other businesses along that stretch of the avenue. Upon further discussion, it appears that some of the folks in there may be also submitting special designated licenses to participate in that. And so I do have documents for the other location as an alternate, but one issue is that the item on the agenda states that the item being considered is to be for an event on Main Street. I think if you're wanting to consider the alternate location, we would maybe need to continue this to the July 30th meeting for consideration at that time, if that's the direction that you're looking to go. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilman Vaughn.
I do have a question regarding the event end time. I'm certainly not in favor of allowing this to go into 1 a.m. But is there, or should there be, some sort of provision that would allow them access potentially to 1 a.m. for cleanup after festivities would cease at 11 p.m.? And can we codify that somehow?
Councilwoman Ganem.
Well, we just spoken not too long ago about ending an event at midnight that asked to go on further. And we had problems with 1 o'clock because it ended up 2 o'clock, and to give time to clean up. And I think I would be averse to 1 a.m.
Any other comments at this point? Councilman Von Baron.
So when we define event end time, is that cleanup time or is that event time?
So on this application, the event end time and the ending time are both 1 a.m. And so I'm thinking, you know, I don't know if their anticipation is that things are kind of winding down and they're kind of cleaning up as the event's wrapping up. But, you know, the other event that we had that asked for that 1 o'clock a.m. time, they kind of had their foot in the old system where John C. Fremont Days had requested the location. The city council approved that location, and then the council followed up with a special designated license, you know, that was then limited to midnight. This one is, you know, kind of fully into the new special event process. So
I probably haven't paid enough attention, but didn't we in a previous meeting talk about a fairly consistent 11 p.m. end time with events like this?
Yes.
Now we seem to be into a series of exceptions that are being asked. I guess I really struggle with that. Either we have a policy or we don't.
So I think, you know, what was approved by the council, it's, you know, there's a deadline, 11 o'clock p.m. unless otherwise authorized by action of the city council. And so, you know, I had a discussion with the applicant regarding that, and that's something that they were wanting to request.
So this applicant specifically requested it to go past that time. Also specifically requesting it to be on Main Street. Felt like that would be a better way for her to have the event. We do close Main Street down for, certain events like Crazy Days and the parades. Those are community-wide events. This is a specific business organization looking at closing down Main Street. I believe did speak to her today. She has other restaurants and businesses that are looking at collaborating with this event too, but they would also have to require an SDL as a part of that. So basically there's a part of Main Street from 3rd to 4th that would be blocked off for this period of time for this event, which would allow that inside that to be, an open container type of situation. So this, I will say, is a little bit different of a request than maybe what we've had in the past, but that's specifically what they're asking for. So we do need to decide as a group with this request how we want to handle it and what exactly the time frame is going to be. And if it's 11, it's 11. Then we need to change the policy to say you can't request and come to council for more time. So Councilman Horner.
Thank you for the last comment, because that's what I was saying, is that if we're going to say in our ordinance that you can come to council and request more time, every one of these are going to be at council requesting more time. The other comment that I would make too is if you are asking council to do something, I would appreciate it if you'd show up and talk to council. I don't think we have anybody here, do we?
I did speak to Berta. She expected to be here, and so I'm not sure. She may have had something.
Well, it would be helpful if we were able to talk to them and get some input and maybe give them some input as well too. I just think it would help in a situation like this if we're being asked to vary it. Right now, I don't think I would support that.
Mr. Mayor, Tyler, is it my understanding there was a subsequent application filed that you have right now for a different location?
Would like to receive that into the record.
And well, I was just going to say, I don't think we could approve that now because it wasn't noticed, but my thought would be to table this one till the next meeting, include the subsequent application, and the applicant can come and speak to the time. That would be my thought. Recommendation.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to make sure I'll display my ignorance because I'm not sure. How long is the beer garden for John C. Freeman Days going to be allowed to go? Is it 11? It is midnight? Well, I don't want to get in a position where we're okay you, not okay you. That's that doesn't fly either.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public on this?
Steve Ray, 1445 North Irving Street, Fremont. I'm totally against it being until 1 o'clock. You talked about your ordinance, been making this, and you give plenty of notice to the people that are going to bring these events forward, that 11 o'clock would be the cutoff time. We had problems in the past. And what Mr. Jensen said, as I understand it, Fremont Days thing had their application in early enough that they're kind of under the old one. So they could be kind of grandfathered in, you might say. But I think you need to stick by your guns at 11 o'clock, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry, like Mr. Horner said, is going to come and say, oh, well, we want ours to go to 2 o'clock because, we need more time. I think you decided as a group that 11 o'clock was going to be it. And I think you need to stand by it. That's plenty of time.
All right, back to count. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay. All right, additional comments from council. Councilmember Von Buren.
No, just given, if I'm understanding this correctly, we aren't even entirely sure the number of businesses who would support having it in Main Street. We aren't quite sure of where the alternate location might be. It's another exception at 11 a.m. I just move that we would table this and at least get more clarification. I don't even know what we're going to go on entirely at this time.
The what's in front of you today is the closed Main to have this outdoor event between 3rd and 4th. But I think throughout the process of this, some other things have come up by the time we're here tonight to where I think it's prudent to move this to the next meeting. So, Councilman Sukram.
Did he make that motion?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, this would be cast your votes. to continue.
Motion carries 7-1, Mayor.
Councilman Jensen,
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Sukram. Cast your votes to adjourn.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody. Happy birthday, Lori.
Happy birthday.
What's that? Yeah. Not late. I stay in. I've had issues with letting Chelsea Fremont days go till midnight and making the Mexicans close till 11.
I can go to any.